Hey, Chris Grove here, back with another review. This time we are doing Thunder Alley from 1985. Thunder Alley is basically like Star Wars. If Luke Skywalker were trying to join a rock band and lived in Tucson instead of Tatooine, that's basically what this movie's all about. So it stars Roger Wilson as Richie, a ace guitar player who wants to join his friend's band. His friend is played by Scott McGinnis, and his name is Donnie. And Donnie is he's kind of a wild and crazy guy. He plays keyboards, so for a keyboardist, he's pretty much a wild and crazy guy. Their lead singer is Skip, played by the wonderful Leif Garrett. Leif, don't call me Leif Garrett, who was big in the 70s. He was on Chips back in the day, late 70s, early 80s, actually all through the 70s, more so the 70s. He was in a movie called Skateboard from 1977, and he was kind of like, he sort of played a 70s version of Tony Hawk, if you will. And just a fun, he's got this blonde hair, he shakes his ass and sings, and that's basically his gig. And Richie is, it's just a wonderful film. It starts off, on the farm. Richie looks like Luke on the farm. He just looks like Luke Skywalker. He's got the kind of feathered hair, kind of part in the middle look that was oh so popular from like the late 70s, through the mid to late 80s. Hell, I saw people sporting that look in like the early 90s. So, hey, it lasted a good decade or a little more, right on, cool. He's on the farm in Tucson, Arizona, and he's, I don't know what they're growing in Tucson, but a lot of desert plants there. Maybe they got a cactus farm. Maybe they're growing saguaros. Who knows, Maybe they're raising javelinas. You never know. Just a fun little farm, and apparently they're harvesting something because, his father, you can't join this rock band. You gotta tend to the farm. And he might as well be Uncle Owen in Star Wars. Seriously. He's just that kind of like, I'm gonna shoot down your dreams and you gotta just be here for the harvest kind of guy. And eventually, as the movie progresses, he sees his son's talent flourish. He really starts to support him, which is a nice scene to watch, and he goes and checks him out when they're playing their big gig at the Palace later on. The Palace is like the main venue, the creme de la creme venue in Tucson that everyone wants to play circa 1985. So he's hanging out with his buddy Donnie. And Donnie is, they're going out one night to the Palace, and Donnie's girlfriend, Lorraine, played by the wonderful Cindy Elbatcher, sets Richie up on a blind date with Beth. Beth is played by the absolutely wonderful and so adorable and sexy, I might add, Jill Schoelen. I used to think her name was spelled Skolin. It's basically spelled Scholen. Might be Swedish, I don't know. But she's got like long dark hair, like a little bang action going. And she's just so sweet to Richie. She's just calling him out on his bullshit throughout half the movie too. He's like, Richie's like, well, my dad expects me to be on the farm, and my mom wants me to go back to school and finish college, and what do you want to do? And he's just like, hey, you ask a lot of questions, don't you? But she really challenges him into, what is it that you really want to do, Richie? And she's an amazing girlfriend. She is an awesome girlfriend. I think a lot of guys would kill for a girlfriend like that, or significant other in their life to really challenge them. And the funny thing is, sometimes we don't always appreciate it while we have it, and then later on we're like, yeah, that was pretty special. So that's my experience anyway. So he finally joins the band, and his dad says, okay, fine, you can go on the road with, and well, to back up a minute, he fills in for the band one night because their new guitar player is passed out in the crapper. He's drunk, high, whatever, and he's just kind of a train wreck. And so Richie's got to fill in for him on guitar. And of course he's like, I don't know the arrangements, I can't pull this off. He goes, oh, you can fake it, man, like they say at AA, fake it till you make it. So he fakes it till he makes it, and he woos the crowd with his guitar playing skills, and he sounds a lot like Steve Lukather. And I've heard rumors, and I didn't see him really in the credits, but I think Steve Lukather may have contributed to this film. Steve Lukather is the frontman and guitarist for the band Toto, and definitely sounds like his style. Very bluesy, yet melodic, and just kind of woos the crowd, wows the crowd with that kind of mid-80s riff shredding thing going on. And it's just a lot of fun. And I don't know, it's just a great energy that this guy has. The Force is with him with guitar playing. He is the Luke Skywalker of guitar. He can handle a guitar like Luke Skywalker later learned how to handle a lightsaber. Probably like Return of the Jedi. So here we are. Okay, he was good in Empire too. I'll give him that. He was just kind of, Star Wars, we didn't really see him in action, except he was fighting that little, flying droid thing, shooting lasers at him for that one scene. And then he let go and was able to do it. But anyway, so Richie is like the Luke Skywalker of guitar playing in this movie. And they go on the road, and they have this, the weird part about the movie is they have, the palace is owned by this guy named the Fat Man. And the Fat Man is played by Randy Polk, and boy is he an asshole. He is just unscrupulous, this guy. He is just looking at all the bands, like, how much mileage can I get out of these guys? How much money can I make from them? And how can I use them and spit them out, basically. He's that kind of guy. And he is just, he's got this road manager that is like, because they're playing, the first night they're opening up for this band called Surgical Steel, which is a real band actually out of Phoenix, apparently. And they're opening up for Surgical Steel, and Surgical Steel is very, just completely metal. That's kind of their whole vibe. They're really much a metal band. And I should say kind of hard rock, mid-80s metal. They're not really Metallica, but they're definitely up there in that genre, approaching that genre. And Magic, the band that Richie joins here with his buddy Donnie, they're more kind of, I guess, mainstream rock, really, maybe a little prog rock, a little bit, but, for Tucson in that time frame, I guess. It basically comprises of Skip, Leif Garrett, and Donnie on keys, and then they have a bass player and a drummer, Bush and Wolf, and they're just kind of a bunch of down-home boys who do their thing, and I guess they're like the Bon Jovi of Arizona, really. That's like the best way to describe them. So yeah, that's just how I'm gonna describe them here. But they're good, and they play really well, and they just the Fat Man sends them on the road with Weasel, played by the wonderful Clancy Brown. And if you ever want a band manager in your corner, it would be Weasel. And this guy is no Weasel, so I have no idea why. Yes, I do know why his name is Weasel, because this movie is directed by J.S. Cardone, and J.S. Cardone was in a band in that area, and I believe their manager, or no, the band was named Weasel. So they named this really tough as nails road manager Weasel, which is a really very inappropriate name, because the guy is tough as nails. And there's one club owner on the road, because Batman sends them on the road, so they're on the road, and they're in Albuquerque and other places between New Mexico and in Arizona, and they're just playing the circuit, basically the Southwest circuit, if you will. And there's this one club owner that just won't, I don't know, isn't really, he's paying the wrong way, and he's kind of shorting them. So he writes them a bad check, and they're supposed to get paid in cash, and Weasel just shakes him down, basically, and threatens to shove a pool cue up his ass, and then they get the money and leave, and that's why they have Weasel, played by the wonderful Clancy Brown, as their road manager. And he gets the job done. And it's also a good role for Clancy Brown, because Clancy Brown has been known, he's known for playing like the sadistic warden in The Shawshank Redemption. He was just an asshole in that one. He was also just a total villain. He played Viking Lufgren in Bad Boys. Bad Boys, the original Bad Boys, not the Martin Lawrence, Will Smith Bad Boys, but the 1983 Bad Boys, starring Sean Penn and Ali Sheedy. So, great movie, by the way. I'll get to that one eventually. But it's just got this kind of solid story of them on the road, and finally they're good enough to play the Palace, again, and back in Tucson. And they're booked in the Palace for like a few weeks anyway. And so they're like the house band all of a sudden, and getting to be the headliner outside of Surgical Steel, apparently. The Fat Man has this love for Surgical Steel, apparently, and he wants them to be the front man. So he basically is getting them out of town, on the road for all that time, so he could kind of have the band manager there, Clancy Brown, check on him. But Clancy Brown is totally on Magic's side. He wants Magic to be he sees a lot of talent in them, and he sees talent in Richie, and he's really trying to make him, realize his talent and his potential. He's really trying to push him in that endeavor, and he mentions that at a party scene thrown by the Fat Man. It's a very nice scene where he says, "I think you're something special, and I want to make it with you, and I think that you and I could go places, and the rest of the band could go places too." So he's really kind of taking Richie and the rest of the band under his wing. So, interesting party scene. So they're at this party, and it's just people. It's like a cocktail party, except you have these naked women skinny dipping in the pool, apparently, because that's how the Fat Man likes to throw his parties. And there's this one woman who, her whole energy is basically, I don't know if she works for the Fat Man, but she likes to get other band members hooked on drugs. And I guess it's because the Fat Man's trying to push Surgical Steel out there. So any other band members, he kind of wants out of the way. So he really does want Magic out of the way. So he tries to get Skip and Donnie on drugs. Skip is not a druggie. Skip is just your typical arrogant frontman. lead singer. He is just your typical, like one time he berates Richie on, I'd be playing a lot better tonight if you weren't upstaging me all the time and doing your solos. It's like, dude, just chill, calm down, it's okay. You're the lead singer. They're the lead guitar player. Let him do his thing, and you come back there, shake your ass and sing, and it'll be fine, So Skip's got a bit of an ego, where Donnie does start to get hooked on drugs, and it culminates in like a setback for the band, and that they have to overcome. And the Fat Man's kind of like, hey, look, Donnie's screwing up over here, and like, why did I book this band, and blah, 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 blah. Well, first of all, I don't really understand. I mean, first of all, his business model makes no sense. If you want to push Surgical Steel up front, and you apparently control the music industry in the greater Tucson, Arizona, Southwest region of the US, then just hire Surgical Steel and don't hire other bands. If you really want them signed and you have some sort of stake in the deal, with them getting signed by a major label in circa 1985, then just do that. But no, he's like, nah, I got these other bands, I'm trying to ruin them so Surgical Steel can, be the headliner. It's like, I don't get his business model at all. It makes absolutely no sense. But it's still an entertaining film, and I do highly recommend it. And the relationship between, the chemistry, I should say, between Richie and Beth, played by Roger Wilson and Jill Schoelen, is really wonderful. It's really a wonderful chemistry. It's a beautiful energy they have. They can really tell each other everything, and Richie, when Donnie starts to turn to the dark side a little bit, he can confide in her, and she gives him a lot of talking points and everything else. Backing up to the party, sorry, I was going to mention Melanie Kinnaman, who plays Star, the one who's hired by the Fat Man apparently to seduce these men and to return them into drugs. There's a scene where at the party, she says, "Hey, guitar man, you're hot. Why don't you come in here and cool off with me?" And she's skinny dipping in the pool. And he's like, "I'm with someone." And she's like, "That's too bad. I could take you places you've never been before." And then she backstrokes away. And it's like, oh my God. I mean, it leaves nothing to the imagination. This is an R-rated film, by the way. And this whole scene is like, wow, this is seriously an R-rated film. Not an X, nothing. Okay, all right, we're doing this. So you see her back Froggy swimming away, backstroke Froggy swimming, back breaststroking, I guess, away, and it's just full frontal nudity and in all her glory. And it's a very risque scene for the time. And Melanie Kinnaman played a much more innocent final girl in Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, with Dudley from Different Strokes. Anyway, that was a great role for her. And this is a great role for her too, because she is a real bad girl in this one. And there's, she's trying to seduce Richie, and he kind of falls for it in one scene, and then Beth has to tell him off, and she's really has to confront him on what matters to you. Is it friendship? Is it love? What do you want? And it's such a great scene because she's just letting him have it, but she really loves him too. And it's a beautiful scene. So this is Thunder Alley from 1985. I highly recommend it. One other thing I'm going to mention, it's a Cannon film. Okay, so it's distributed by Cannon Films, Golem and Yorm Globus, or whatever their names are. Anyway, Cannon Films were known in the 80s and early 90s for making really sleazy films, And like the Melanie Kinnaman nudity part, yeah, there is a lot of sleaziness in this film, but it's filmed in a way that is also has a lot of heart to it, especially between the relationship with Richie and Donnie, and this wonderful score, the musical score that kind of keeps kicking in anytime Richie and Beth are getting romantic, and all the songs on the soundtrack just rock, all the songs by Magic and even the songs by Surgical Steel too. I mean, it's basically, you got 1985 hard rock / metal versus mainstream / prog rock in a way combining, and it's really cool. It's a awesome soundtrack, and if you're into how things were done in the mid 80s, especially since director J.S. Cardone was actually in a band and wrote and directed this film based on his experiences in the band, I guess it's legit for the Tucson / Arizona Southwest scene of that era. So yeah, it's something to definitely look at and check out. And again, Cannon, going back to Cannon, their films were okay. Like, they did films that were like, they did a lot of the Death Wish sequels with Charles Bronson. I don't think they did the first one, but they did like 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 5 was the last one, which had a sleazy angle to them, and they were kind of cheaply made. And Bronson just kept doing them. I think Michael Wimmer directed a few. He directed the first one. There was a charm to those films, though. And also, like Chuck Norris and Missing in Action and Invasion USA, where the movie poster is him in basically a denim cut off, double fisting 2 Uzis, basically. It's just a wonder, it takes you back to this wonderful time of sleazy action films, and Cannon was pumping them out left and right. So Invasion USA, the Missing in Action Braddock movies, and those type of films were kind of on par with what Cannon films were all about. But then it would crank out this lovely gem about a kind of a heartfelt gem about this young farm boy who wants to join this rock band, and his journey on the road with them, and coming back and playing the Palace and falling in love and being tempted by the dark side, but holding his own Luke Skywalker presence and energy. And he does that very well. Roger Wilson plays a great role here. He's kind of a dope, and Beth, Jill Schoelen, has to reel him in, but it's just a great role. And anyway, I highly recommend this film, Thunder Alley from 1985. Till next time, this is Chris Grove saying peace out, be excellent to each other, and life is not a problem to be solved, it's a mystery to be lived, so live it. Catch you next time.